What's up, y'all? This is Jason. We're going to do an oil change on 2010 Impala, and it's no big deal. It's an easy job. So we've got the oil here. I've got the filter in the back seat of the car. I'll show you what I've got, show you how much to use. And this is the V6 3900 motor. Again, it's a 2010 Impala, and they use this engine on several different year models and several different cars, I believe. So this is an easy job. I don't know what the shop charges for it. I know what the shop that I take my vehicles to sometimes charges for it. And every once in a while, depends on the situation, things I've got going on, how much I'm working, what the weather's like, if it's been muddy or too cold or something like that, I can't get it down to my ramp, I'll pay them to do it. But otherwise, I like to do it. I like to see what's going on underneath my car, what the backside of my tires look like. You know, I like to see things for myself. And you save a little money doing it. So, for example, like I said, the shop where I take my car, they charge about $50 for an oil change. Well, the jug of oil that I bought, which is 5 quarts, do not put 5 quarts in this car. It only takes 4. But the reason why I bought a 5-quart jug is because it's cheaper than buying 4 single quarts of oil. I was actually going to buy 4 single quarts of oil to make this video, just for, hey, this is what I'm using. But just buy a 5-quart jug and don't use the whole thing, because you're going to come out cheaper. But anyway, the 5-quart jug, which you won't use all of, was like $22 at Walmart, or $20, something like that. And you know, the filter was probably around $5. So you're in the oil change for less than $30 versus paying somebody else $50 to do it. Now, I don't know what other, you know, places that are just oil change shops, what they charge to do it, but places that are just oil change shops, I don't trust them. Anyway, let's get to it. This is one of many oil filters that you can use. It's the Fram PH9837. There's several different oil filters. I think Fram's got another one. This one's got the grip thing on it. There's many different brands and different model numbers that you can use. I just used the one that I'd used one time before, because I already had it in one of my videos, what I had used. And at Walmart, they don't seem to have the lookup thing anymore. You know, the little lookup computer will look up your car model and tell you what kind of oil filters you use. All right, and this is the oil that I'm using. I'm using Valvoline high mileage synthetic blend. It's 5W30. Okay. Again, like I said, this is a 5-quart jug, but this car does not take 5 quarts. It's just cheaper to buy it that way. I've got my car up on a ramp. The front wheels are up. This is old homemade ramp we've been using for many years. We keep on replacing the wood, but this is what we got going on right now. The yard's got a little bit of slope to it, so it helps lift the front end up, and also we got my ramp. And this is treated wood that I've got on here, and a couple pieces of cedar. So, got an oil drain pan, a couple pieces of cardboard, and okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the oil filter off. After the oil filter comes off, some oil's going to drain out. Oil will drip out of here. You got to get on your hands. I kind of loosen it up some, let some drain out over the pan, and then after all that finishes draining out, I will take the filter off, and I'll make sure I have a clean surface there, and I'll put the new filter in. Now, what my dad always taught me was to put a little bit of oil inside the new oil filter. That way you're not starting with a fresh start in the oil filter, like an empty oil filter. He also used to tell me to like wet the edge of the rubber seal that's on the oil filter. That way, I guess just to help lubricate it and help it make a good seal. Hey, just going by what Dad taught me, okay? So anyway, after you put the new filter back on, then you move on to the oil drain plug. All right, when you take this loose, and you start getting it loose, oil's gonna start coming out. I just kind of leave the plug just kind of hanging there a little bit. That way some oil can come out until I can, you know, whenever I loosen it up with a socket wrench, of course. I'll leave it just kind of hanging there a little bit till I can get my fingers on it and grab a hold of it and kind of like jerk it out of the way. Then oil's gonna be shooting out, especially if the oil is hot. You just want to be careful when you do that. And the oil's gonna be coming out at an angle, so it's not like it's just gonna be coming straight down. And then of course, as the oil dissipates in there, it's gonna start, you know, coming more straight down. And after all that drains out, put your plug back in and fill your engine up with oil. Like I say, if you bought that 5-quart jug, don't put but 4 quarts in there, all right? And then make sure you check it on the dipstick whenever you get done, all right? So the main reason I'm telling you to buy that 5-quart jug is to save money, okay? Okay, so I got it broke loose. You'll notice as I start loosening on it, see the oil starting to run out. Just let that drain out unless you want to make a big old mess, okay? Until it stops draining, and then you can go ahead and take your filter off. Okay, see it got down to just dripping. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take it off. I can't video this and take it off at the same time, so just trust me. That's what I'm doing. Look, when you take this thing off, it's still got a good bit of oil in it, okay? So if you tilt it, oil's gonna come out. All right, watch. See? So you could easily make a mess. So I actually know somebody that changed his oil once, for probably the first time ever, and he got oil on his clothes and kind of made a mess, and he said, I'm never doing this again, I'll pay somebody else to do it. Okay, so there's the surface that the oil filter mounts against. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wipe that down. You see where the shiny part is? That's where the oil filter sits against, and the part in the middle, that's what it screws onto. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up where the gasket sits against, and that way I have a good clean surface to attach to. Another thing you want to think about is I have heard of these gaskets coming off of oil filters before and getting stuck to the car, and somebody putting an oil filter right on top of that because they're not looking and paying attention to what they're doing. So they've got 2 gaskets stacked on top of each other, and the vehicle leaks oil. Okay, that's good enough. Wiped it off. I'm gonna screw the new oil filter on there, and then we'll move on to the drain plug. So here we have the Fram oil filter. Fram PH 9837. This is what I'm using. It's got these grippers on the bottom. I hope you take it off. And it also has the regular shape that's on the bottom of them. There's a special tool that you can get to fit on the bottom of these oil filters. You know, take one off, put one on. Myself, I prefer a good firm hand tightening, and if I can't get it off by hand using gloves or whatever, I've got a big pair of channel locks that I use. I'll get that joker off one way or another. And so I'm going to put some oil in here, and may fill about halfway, and I'm going to wet this O-ring that goes around the top with a little bit of oil, and then I'm going to screw it on. Okay, there you go. I got a little bit more than half in there, and wet the gasket with oil all the way around. Tell me, do you do that? Do you wet the gasket? Do you know of anybody else that does that? And if so, hey, I don't remember why. Tell me why. Does it really matter? Okay, so we got it on here. There you go. Good and firm, hand tight. That's what I like. Hey, my oil drain plug, you can't see it in this glare, but it's a 15 millimeter. All right, so we're headed to do that now. So I broke it loose with a wrench. Well, I thought I did. So unless you want to lose your screw into the oil, sometimes the oil can be hot if you've recently driven the car, so just be careful. right there on the verge. There we go. All right, see what I'm talking about, how it shoots out at an angle? All right, the lower the oil gets, the more it's gonna drip down. So you better make sure that you have your pan over far enough. All right. All right, I'm just barely down to a drip. I'm gonna go ahead and put the oil plug in and get on with it. I got oil on my glasses. I sure did miss the days when I didn't wear glasses. All right, so. Put this in, I'm gonna tighten it up good. Don't murder the thing, okay? You wanna tighten it down good. You see it's got a gasket on the back side of here, a good oil drain plug. We'll have a gasket on here. Some of them actually have a magnet on the end to catch any kind of debris that may be floating in your oil. So anyway, I'm gonna put it in here. I'm gonna snug this thing down real good, not with just my fingers. That's good enough. Tight, but not crazy tight, like some of these oil change shops will do. And when it's sealed, you'll be in good shape, okay? Looks like I've got a little oil leakage going on here. I don't know what that's from, because, look, I don't know a lot about front wheel drives, but I could be wrong, but yes, this is the bottom side of the engine. This is where you're draining your oil from. Change your engine oil. I don't know how the transmission and everything, well, the lineup, you know, how everything's lined up. Well, obviously this is down here is the front of the engine, so this has got to be the transmission. So how does all this work with driving a front end, you know, since there's no drive shaft? I definitely don't understand that. But anyway, I know this is transmission, this is the engine, and I've got oil leakage in between here, and this is engine oil, so I don't know if there's some sort of gasket that's in between here, some sort of seal. If you know what's going on here, if this is something that I could easily change by taking these two off and getting to taking this cover off and seeing something that I could change, hey, I'd love to know. Reach out and tell me, because you know, this isn't a crazy old leak that I've got on this car like our 2009 Impala, but that is enough to make a mess. Okay. All right, so we've got the oil plug in, got the oil filter changed. I'm gonna fill her up with oil, and so let me get out of here and get that done. So this is where the engine oil goes in, right here, and this is where you check it. Now I don't like these, because when you loosen up on this whole stinking thing screws loose. The other day, my wife had to add a quart of oil to our other car, and she didn't know any different. She just made a mess because she didn't know how to deal with it. I'm trying to tell her over the phone. So if you loosen this up, and this whole sleeve that goes through this plastic housing comes loose, the whole thing ends up coming out, which is dumb. And then all you gotta do is you can take this part and grip it in your left hand and this part in your right hand, or vice versa, whatever, and untwist it and then screw the other part in. But you can, if I can do this without the phone in my hand. So let's say it's all in there and tightened down. What I normally do is I'll take my left hand and I'll use my fingers and I'll grab a hold of this bottom part whenever I loosen this up, and that's enough to hold it in place. That way this part doesn't come out. All right. So caps off. That's the way it should look. I don't know where my other funnel is. So this one's got a fairly small hole in it. I don't prefer to use this one, but it's going to drain slow. So what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to put 4 quarts oil in this vehicle. The oil jug has notches on it. On the side, let's see if you can see that. All right, so there's notches down the side, and they're in down at the bottom. One side says liters, the other side says quarts. It takes 4 quarts. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so what we're actually gonna do, this is a 5 quart jug. We're gonna drain this down until we have 1 quart left, okay? And so we have to look, and when you buy a 5-quart jug, you got to be careful you'll make a mess, all right? Especially pouring into a funnel like that. A funnel that doesn't have a larger hole at the bottom, because it's not going to drain into the engine as fast. So just be careful, and you may have to, you know, you may be pouring your oil in, but you may have to pull it back and check your let's call this sight glass. Check your sight glass and see where it's lining up at. Okay. So I'll show you what can happen when you're using a big old full jug like that. You get oil here. All right, I got oil here. I got oil down in there. All right, it's on the hoses. So I'm gonna have to end up wiping this stuff off, okay? So you do run the chance of making a mess if you're using the big jug. When I have a chance to have another jug to drain it into, I like to go ahead and pour a quart off the top into another jug. And that way, all I have in the jug is 4 quarts and everything pours easier. Okay, so I got the oil in, I checked the oil. Now we're gonna crank it, and what's gonna happen when you crank it up after an oil change, if the oil filter was totally empty, you would have more of a gap in it. But when you first crank it up, it's gonna look like you don't have any oil pressure, and then it's gonna pop up real quick. But being that we've got some oil in the oil filter, that's gonna help that out. Funny, I'm telling you about oil pressure and everything, but this car doesn't even have an oil pressure gauge. So I made a video while it was happening, but of course, I thought I was making a video, it wasn't recording. So anyway, when you first start it up, there's gonna be a little oil pressure light on there. Well, it's gonna look like a little oil fill thing. It's probably like whenever you need oil. So this car doesn't have an oil pressure gauge on the dash, but that's going to show up when you got low oil pressure due to not have any oil or not enough oil. So the little oil fill thing popped up, but it goes off very briefly. That's what that kind of relates back to what I was saying about in cars that have an oil pressure gauge. When you first crank it up, they're not going to show that they don't have much oil pressure after an oil change, and then they'll quickly, you know, start acting right. Okay, you see how this says changing engine oil soon? Well, I'll show you how to fix that, okay? All right, we'll go through the steps to get that back right. Okay, so let's reset the oil light where it says change engine oil soon. So what we're gonna do, put the camera behind the steering wheel. Wow. Anyway, you can see them. All right, see where it's got the car information? All right, so I'm trying to get this to where I can see both the display and here. All right, so you hit the I, change engine oil soon. Let's see, 0% oil life remaining. Go down to the check mark and hold that down. Boom, 99% oil life remaining. Obviously, sitting here running for a few minutes, we used up a whole 1%. How dumb. Give me 100%. Okay, y'all. We just changed the oil in a 2010 Chevrolet Impala with a 3.9 engine or the 3900 engine. It's the larger V6 that they put in them. This is on a LTZ. This car's in pretty good shape. Hey, we got lucky with this buy. Bought it many years ago. This was actually my first sedan. We had a couple of Camaros, and I guess it was finally time to stop making my daughter sit down in a hole in the back of a bucket seat in the back of a Camaro. And had some friends who mother had gone into a nursing home, and the car only had like 30,000 miles on it. So it was well taken care of, and I got a good deal on it. I feel like it was a fair price. So it's been a pretty good car. We haven't had to do much to it. So I think it was 5 years old at the time. So it was about 2015. So all we've had to do to it since, let's see, I recently had a radiator fan put in it. So it's got 2 fans, one of them wasn't working. We had some air conditioning control issues, not issues with the air conditioner. Of course, the I've probably replaced all 3 of the your little, where they used to be vacuum controls. It's for the air conditioner when you change back and forth from here to here. They've got little plastic gears in them and everything. There's 3 of them in this car. One of them's up back in behind here. One of them is up under the dash, and one of them, well, actually, now there's one back behind here, one here, and one up in there. But you can change them all without taking the dash out. That's no problem. Just kind of a pain. And I mean, those, I've done those myself a couple times, and I think the power steering was leaking. That's about it. But and tires on it a few times. But now I think it's about time for tires again, and it may be time for struts all the way around, because I'm at something like 130,000 miles with the original struts. So I want to put brakes on it once, all the way around. I didn't put rotors on, I just put brakes on. I didn't even have them turned. I don't know whether I suggested or not, but it worked fine for me. The car is stopping a little funny now, but I think it's because of my old hard tires that aren't really shaped very well right now. They've got all the water wear on the back of them, and they're just hard tires. They're probably about 8 years old. It's definitely time for some new tires. I'll show you how nasty and black this oil was that was in here, and we'll get this car cut off and back up to the house. So how you like that? Think that was nasty enough? It's definitely time for an oil change. Hey y'all, thanks for watching this video. I hope to have more stuff for you in the future. I did finally get my 91 Camaro back out of the shop, and if you remember, I posted a video where I was sitting in the car and the fuel pump had died. I was sitting in Home Depot parking lot. Well, I got the car back. What they did for me is they put a fuel pump in, and let's see, what else was it? My rear end was leaking. I had them go ahead and fix that for me, and they also put a 1 or 2 universal joints. I don't remember. We'll look at the invoice, and I'll make a video for it, and we'll talk about what that cost me. All right. So, hey y'all, this was the oil filter, 4 quarts oil. The whole thing may cost me under 30, and I have an extra quart of oil left over. It just took a little time. I got to be out here in this pretty day, down here at my shop. It's a beautiful evening, morning actually. I decided I'd go ahead and get on it before I got into the heat of the day. Thank y'all for watching this video, and I hope y'all have a good weekend. Later.